I'm really sorry, guys, for the inconvenience. Let us start the session. Some network issues, some login, and yeah. So we have to, while creating a bucket, the very first thing is something we have to provide a globally unique name. So let me just say, so let us say just a bucket unique, right? So I'll just say unique, and I'll just give a time today's time. 05/2023. So this is something that it is a globally unique thing, right? So that is something. And after that, I'm going to click on continue. And we have seen how to select a proper location. That we have seen, right? We have these kind of options, right? So region, dual region, multi-region. What is the problem with the region? There won't be any replication, so there will be a latency. The data is not highly available. So that is the one thing. And dual region, there will be a replication between two regions, and data will be available, and there will be a little latency. And what is the thing with the multi-region? There will be a replication between among multiple regions, and their data will be highly available, and the latency will be very, very less. So this is what. So at any cost, if you don't want to lose your data, go to the multi-region. And it's okay if you lose some data. It's okay if the data is not available all the time or latency will be there. In that case, region and dual region you can go for. Okay, now I'm going to the multi-region because I need the data to be highly available. Click on continue. And this is where we have to select a proper standard storage class. We have seen that storage classes here. We have 4 storage classes. One is one is standard storage class, nearline, cold line, and archive. So if you have a file which is frequently used, you can go for the standard. And if you have a file which you wanted to use it once per a month, you go for the nearline, and once per a quarter you can go for the cold line. Accessing it once in a year, you go for the archive. What is the benefit of selecting a proper storage class? That so that you will be able to get some benefit of the cost. So because when you select a standard storage class, the retrieval cost is very less, and at the same time storage cost is very high. So why, when you select a frequently accessed data, the data will be available highly all the time. So that's the reason storage cost is higher. Okay, so likewise for the retrieval cost also, archive will be having the highest retrieval cost, and the storage cost is very less. Okay, so you have to be very smart while choosing this one. For now I am going with the nearline because I am going to access this file once in a year, once in a month. Okay, so this is what it is. You can able to see here, data accessed less than once in a month. Okay, and click on continue. Now this is a place where we have to worry about access control to your data. That means what's so you have a data with you, then whom you have to provide access, because we don't want it to provide access to the public, because this is the client data that we are dealing with. We should not we should not provide access to the public. So we should have provide access to the authorized people and to the authorized data only, not all the data. Now that one also we have seen yesterday. You can see here, I have a user 1, I have a user 2. User 1 needs to have access to all the files inside a bucket, but user 2 needs an access to few files inside a bucket. So for that one, I come up with the concept of uniform, and I come up with the concept of fine grained here. What is this one uniform? In a uniform, we are going to provide access to all the files inside a bucket. Uniform, the name itself, it is saying that uniformly providing the access to all the files inside a bucket. Okay, the arrow marks are indicating properly, you'll be able to see that, right? And what about a fine grain? The name itself, it is suggesting that the fine grain, that means granular access to a file or an individual or a specific file to a particular user. Okay, this we will achieve, right? We will see it. I will show you how we to achieve it also today. Okay, now I'll be selecting a fine grain because I wanted to provide object level permissions, not a individual. That means individual object level permissions. That is one thing. And the final step, this is where we have stopped, right? So let us try to understand what is this one. Objective versioning is there, and one more is retention policy is there. Okay. So what is this objective versioning? So let me try to explain that. It is also very simple. Need not to worry about it. Okay. Now, the final thing is object to versioning. The name itself, it is saying that object to version. Okay, so now see here, you have created a bucket. Okay, you have created a bucket. Inside that, you have used the sales.csv file. Okay, what you have loaded? You have loaded a file called sales.csv. Okay, so what happened is like you have used this file. Okay, you selected this file in the BigQuery and you have done some kind of a processing. Maybe in the data proc, you have done some processing on this file. So you took this file and modified this file. That means you have done some processing. Now tell me, do you want this old file as well as the modified file? Because you have taken this file into the data proc and you have modified it. So this is a modified file now. Okay, so you took this old file sales.csv, you went to the data proc and you have modified it. Now tell me, do you want this old file and do you want the modified file both? Then that is where you can enable the object versioning. So when you enable the object versioning, if a file is modified, you will be able to have both the versions. That means older version will be there, modified version will be there. So for the modified version, you will give sales.01.csv. You will. This is the first version. Okay, so this is what. If you don't enable the object versioning, what will happen now? This file will not be there. Whatever the thing you have modified, right? That modified file we will be overwriting it. Okay, so only the sales modified file will be there, which is not a older one, which is a modified one. No, modified. Okay, so this is what it is. So that means overwritten. The file was overwritten. That means the existing version of the data is gone. Okay, you can able to have a modified file only. So if you wanted to go for a object versioning, what happens is that when you enable the object versioning, the versions of the files will be available. That means the older version will be available, the newer version will be available. If you don't do that, the existing file will be overwritten. That means you will only be having a newer version, older version is gone. So this is what is the object versioning. If you enable it, what happens? You will be able to have this version. Okay, tomorrow you take this file and done some processing and you come up with a modified, you will be able to have one more version. Sales_02 of CSV. Something like that, sales under. Again, you have done same thing, 03.csv. Up until how many versions you needed, you can also mention it here. Okay, if you go and see here, maximum number of versions per object. You can mention 3 objects, 4. Also, you can mention any number of versions, right? You can mention 3, 4 versions, any number of versions, and expire non-concurrent versions after 90 days. Okay, so you will be able to see here. So, for example, you mentioned here versions. Okay, let us say 3 versions. Okay, that means this is first version, this is second version, this is third version. So 3 versions are available already for the file. Okay, if you try to create it, after you will also be having sales_4 also. Okay, but what happens is like this file will be deleted because you have mentioned 4 concurrent corrections only. Okay, so that is what maximum number of versions per object is 3. So concurrent connections will be after 30 days, that older version of the file will be deleted. Okay, so this older file will be deleted after 30 days. That means you can mention, you can include date also, even if you want it to be available for 365 days, all of these things. Or if you think that I need 4 versions of the objects, then you can go for 4 versions. So this way you will be able to manage your time. And this way you will be able to manage the existing file and modified file, older file and modified file, both 1 minute less. Okay, so this is what is the objective version. No, one more concept is also there, that is retention policy. Let's understand, try to understand that. Okay, one more is retention policy, sir. Everything is very important, sir. I'm telling you. Only first time I will explain this much. Next time, whenever I say retention policy, you should be in a position to understand, okay, this is what is a retention policy. Okay, so because the terminology is very important here. Now see here, this is your bucket. You have uploaded a file to your bucket, that is sales.csv. As soon as you uploaded a bucket, or as soon as someone uploaded a bucket to, as soon as someone uploaded a file to this particular bucket, no one should be able to delete it for next 2 hours. If you have some kind of a requirement like this, okay, no one should be able to delete it for next 2 hours. So this is what is a retention policy. Okay, you can able to mention a retention period, that is 2 hours, as soon as the file is created. That means within the retention period, no one will be able to delete it. Okay, it's like this, sir. A client is uploading a file to your bucket. This is your bucket. This is your production bucket. A client is loading a bucket to a file to this bucket. And if someone deletes this file, today's pipeline will fail, because today's pipeline will, every day client will upload this file. The pipeline needs that particular file every day. If the pipeline is not available, the pipeline, all the entire production pipelines will fail. Okay, so that's the reason the pipeline every day will be running at maybe maybe at 3 a.m. Okay, maybe at 3 a.m. it is going to, 3 p.m. it is going to be running. The client is going to upload the file at 1 p.m. Okay, so client uploading the file at 1 p.m. and the pipeline is running at 3 p.m. So what is here is that, so between that you have 2 hours. Okay, so if the pipeline, if the file is there, the pipeline will run successfully. If the file is not there, all the pipelines will be failed. So for that reason, if someone is having access only, they will be able to delete it. If someone is not having access, even though if I wanted to delete it, also I will not be able to delete it. So if I kind of option, if you are looking for, that is what is a retention policy, sir. In a retention policy, no one will be able to touch this file. If it is 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 hours, 1 day, 10 days, 1 week, 1 year also, that is fine. Okay, what is the thing here is that as soon as the file is created, no one should be able to delete it or modify it within the retention period. So I'll just say this is the retention period. Okay, so this is what is a retention period. Within this retention period, no one will be able to do what? 2 things. They cannot even delete the file. They cannot even modify also, because I should not provide a deletion or modifying of anything to this particular bucket. So that is what is nothing but a retention policy, sir. Okay, what is a retention policy? You have some file which you wanted it to be available for next 2 hours. No one should be able to delete it and modify it, even though they have access to delete it or modify it also, even though they have access to delete and modify. But the thing is, like, due to the retention policy, if they wanted to do it also, it will not be done. Okay, so that is what is the retention policy, sir. Let us try to see that in action. For example, I go here, I put a retention period as, so seconds, you can mention anything. I'll try to mention 4 seconds, sir. 4 6 are 240 seconds. Okay, 4 minutes I have mentioned. Okay, so I have mentioned all the options. You see here, name of my bucket, location, storage class, access control. I selected as fine grain, and my production of the data with help of the retention policy. Okay, so this is what I am trying to create an app bucket here. What I am doing, sir, I am trying to create a bucket here now. Bucket is created. Now see here, the very first thing, retention period, right? So let me, you see here. So whenever you create a bucket, so this is the metadata of the bucket. If you wanted to see, you can able to see here also. This is the metadata of the bucket, sir. You are in the level of bucket. This is the metadata of the bucket. When it is created, when it was done, what is the storage class, what is this, what is that, all the things are here. Okay, whenever you wanted to use this bucket in your client libraries or in your data flow for processing purpose, or you wanted to load a file from a BigQuery, in all of these things you need to retrieve it, right? So whenever a retrieval is required, you can able to use this thing. So this is the URI of the bucket, because everything is a directory inside the online. So we are in the online portal. So everything is a directory. So if you wanted to access this bucket from client libraries outside the Google Cloud platform, you can go for this one. Let me do this thing. Yeah. Outside the Google Cloud platform, this is the URI. Inside the Google Cloud platform, this is the URI. Okay. So this is something you have to focus on, because there are the main intention of having a file inside a Google Cloud platform is that we wanted to store it whenever I require. We wanted to retrieve it. Storing is fine. I'll create a bucket and store it. Retrieval is something with the help of this URIs. Outside the Google Cloud platform, this is something. Inside the Google Cloud platform, this is something. Okay. Hope that is clear. And now come back to the objects. We have seen the metadata of the bucket, right? Now I wanted to load a object inside it. What is an object? Object is nothing but a file of any format. Let me try to upload it, guys. Okay, so I am trying to upload some 1000 records. Okay, see, file upload started. The file will be uploaded to here in a minute. See here now, this is a, you see here. Let me try to delete this file, because it has a retention policy of 240 seconds. Let us see whether it is working or not. Click on delete. Even I am the admin of this entire account, so I should have access to delete it. But even though I am the admin, I cannot be able to delete it, because you see here, when you create a bucket, you have mentioned one thing, that is retention policy. The object, this one is subjected to bucket retention policy. So object retention, so cannot be deleted or overwritten during this time. Okay, so this is what is the object retention policy, sir. So that is something that you have to understand. Even though I am the admin of this account, I cannot be able to delete. If I wanted to delete it, what I have to do? I have to go to this particular, I have to go to my protection, delete the retention policy. Okay, then only you'll be able to delete it. Okay, this is a more of protecting your data. So if someone is trying to modify it or delete it. Okay, so that is one thing. And one more thing, you have seen the metadata of the bucket, right? Now you will be able to see the metadata of the object as well. You select the object. Say you are inside the objects, or you are inside the buckets. This is your bucket name. This is your file name. So this is the metadata of your object. So type, size, last created, last model, storage class. And now you have to understand the storage class of a bucket. Sorry, the storage class of an object will be inherited from the bucket. That means whatever the bucket storage class will be there, right? It will be the same for your object as well. You already know that my bucket object class was storage class was nearline. Now it is the same for the object as well. So that is one thing. Okay, same thing. How you wanted to access your bucket, you can also access your object. So if you wanted to access a bucket, you select a GS util URI and all. If you wanted to access your object, you go to the object level, and this is the inside the Google Cloud Platform. This is the path that you can able to use for retrieving this object from any of the platform inside the Google. Okay. So if you wanted to access the same thing from the outside of the Google, you can use this link. Okay, so this is two seconds.
Sorry, is there any chance that bucket and object will have different rules? I mean to say this storage class.
Of course, if you wanted to have, yeah, we can have it. For example, you have a file, and if a file inside a bucket is think that you have a file that is there from last 6 months. Okay, so you wanted to put a rule like this. Okay, assume that you have a file with you from the last 6 months. This is your file. It is there from last 6 months, and you have a rule like this, and your bucket is a standard. Your bucket is a standard, but you have a file which I have been using from the last 6 months. Once every file have a validity of the 6 months, if you wanted to make the storage class to nearline and storeline, you can put a rule like this. Okay, that means bucket storage class is a standard, even though the file storage class was also standard. But if a file is having it is there from last 6 months inside a bucket. If you wanted to put a rule like it is going to be nearline for next from now onwards, then you can able to put it. In this case, the bucket is a standard, file is a nearline. Okay, so this way you can see.
I mean, how to modify that? Like same.
For that one, you have to put. So I'll show you. Actually, we didn't go there, but so that's actually a life cycle rule. Okay. So you can able to go to your life cycle.
Yeah, okay, sir.
You can add it.
Okay, fine. And one more thing, is there any criteria, like say, for example, if a bucket is standard, object can be nearline, or if a bucket is nearline, can object be a standard?
It's not like that. That's not. If you see, your main intention of selecting a standard, nearline, cold and whatever it is, it does not depends on the bucket. Okay, so it doesn't depend on the bucket. It depends on the objects that you are going to keep tomorrow, right? See, my way of creating a bucket depends on my storage class. That is where selecting a storage class depends on the accessing the file. Okay, so if you are trying to access the file frequently, it's better for you to select that bucket as your standard storage class. Okay, think like this. You have a bucket, all the files inside that bucket is going to be frequently accessed. You create a bucket for that particular case and keep all the frequently accessed files inside that bucket. And you have a one more bucket, and you wanted to access the files once in a month, you select that as a nearline. Okay, that way you will be able to do it. So our main requirement is that my end thing is object needs a standard storage class, and then I select while creating the bucket, I'll keep that in mind and then select it. Okay, so that is how it works. Yeah. Okay, so this is what it is, guys. So we have seen how to retrieve the data. For bucket, you go directly go to configuration, retrieve it. For the object, you have to select the object and you select it here. Okay, so two things are fine. Now one more thing now we have seen that how I can provide access to the individual persons. Okay, so for example, now I wanted to upload one more file. Upload one more file accommodation. Okay. Two things, sir. You have to remember that if you go to the configuration of your bucket, you have selected access control fine grained. That means you can able to provide access individually. If you have selected it as a uniform, you cannot be able to provide access individually. So that is something that you have to understand. Now, as I selected a fine grained, then I can able to provide the access individually. Individual files can have a access to an individual persons. So for example, you see here, I have this file. I wanted to provide access to one person. Only one person I wanted to provide access. In that case, click on this one. You see here, I'm inside a object. Click on edit access. This is my metadata of the object, sir. Okay, edit access. You see here, object name is this one. For this object we are talking about, only for this object. So if you wanted to provide access to some person, it is a user or a group of users, you can also mention. Okay, someone asked, right, project also, can I be able to provide access? You can also mention here the project. You can mention the project ID here. Okay, project ID here. Okay, if it is a user, one user, you mention their user email ID. If it is a group of users, you mention the group of emails, or you can mention a group name. Okay, all of these things. Now, if I wanted to provide access to the user, or if you wanted to provide make the access as a public, all users, you can also mention this one. Save. Okay, so I provide you this link, guys. Online, you will be able to have the members bindings, all user not allowed since the public access. Okay, we have enforced that. Sorry, we have enforced that action. So that's the reason. Okay, so let us try to provide access to one user. Okay, now if you can give me your mail ID, I will be able to provide access to this file, or else I will enter my other email ID. Okay, so this is my other email ID, and I will click on save. Okay, actually that email ID is wrong. Okay. So that's done. That means one person, group of persons, one more project, whatever it is. That means individual access to an object. Okay. One more thing. This bucket is a fine grained. So that's the reason I am talking about fine grained. That means individual. If you wanted to provide access while you are fine grained, and if you wanted to provide a bucket level also, you can also mention that. You go to, this is your bucket, right? You go to permissions. Okay, you go to permissions and you grant access. So that means you are inside a bucket level. You are granting access to the thread bucket level. Grant what kind of an access? You mentioned the mail ID of that particular. It will come here, sir. Actually, it is still loading. It is still loading. Let's wait. Okay, so I am providing access to a particular person. I'll enter his mail ID. I'll come here to the role, cloud storage. You wanted to make him an admin. You wanted to make him a storage admin, storage creator, storage viewer. So all of these things you can able to provide. Storage viewer means reader access will be given. storage creator. That means an entire bucket. He will be able to view all the files, or he will be able to create or load or upload, delete, whatever the things. That means creator means editor. He can able to do anything. So that is what. Admin means he can do anything. He can also provide access or deny the access to some other people. All of those things can also be done. So this is what is how you are going to control the access of each file. One is via each file using the object level permissions. One more is via bucket. That means all the files inside a bucket via bucket level permissions. Any questions, guys? Are we good? Do we have any questions on this front? Very important topic, granting an access via object level permissions, via bucket level permissions. Bucket level permissions can be done with the help of the grant access at a bucket. And object level permissions can be done only to the fine grain. For example, if I am switching it to the form. So this is an editable option. Access control is an editable option. Fine grain to the uniform can be done, but uniform to fine grain cannot be done. Okay, it's one way road. Okay, fine grain to the uniform can be done. So I'm going to switch it to uniform. Okay. Now it is uniform, sir. Switch to the fine is actually forgot this. Okay, so this is an editable option. So what it will do, you can edit from the uniform to fine grain to uniform, even the bucket is created. Okay, so for example, if I switch to the
Actually, your voice is breaking. I don't know. Is it for me only or for the entire?
It's already
No, for me as well.
uniform. Sorry, it's already uniform, sir. So for example, if I go to the objects, click on object.
Sorry, Saidhul. I mean,
You guys can hear me?
No, sir. No, it's not. We are not here like from uniform to fine grain. Before that, maybe before 5 minutes of the class, we are not able to hear you properly. Can you repeat that fine grained uniform one? Because your voice is breaking actually.
Sure, guys. So something wrong with my internet connection. Okay, I cannot be able to share my screen. 1 minute, guys. Hello everyone, is it breaking now?
No, it looks good.
Okay, I'm really
now
sorry
it seems
guys.
better.
Something wrong with my network today. So I'll try to explain what I have told. So you can able to, once the bucket is created, if you selected a uniform, you can convert it into the fine grain. And once this is what I'm talking about. For example, okay, we have seen that. So if you have bucket created, the access control uniform to fine grain to uniform. So you can change it. So this is an editable option. Access control is an editable option. You can able to change it vice versa. Anything uniform to fine grain to uniform. So that is what it can be done. Okay. So for example, if you go to your bucket, okay, so I'll select a uniform one. So I'm selecting here my storage class access control is uniform. Click on that. So this bucket is a uniform access control. So if I select any of the object here and edit access, see, this is not, it cannot be done. So cannot get a legacy ACL for an object when uniform bucket level is enabled. Why? Uniform is something that where you can able to provide bucket level permissions. You cannot provide object level permissions. That you have to understand, guys. Okay, so this is something that you guys have to understand now. Okay, uniform access control. This is what I have told yesterday also. Okay, what is uniform? Uniform is a create all bucket level permissions. All files. By default, it will be applicable to all files inside a bucket. That means it is a bucket level permissions. And if you try to apply a object level permissions, it cannot be. It is you cannot go to do. You cannot do that. Okay. If you try to apply a object level permissions in the uniform, you cannot do that. So that is what's the problem here. See, you go to an accommodation.csv file. You try to access. It is showing an error because you cannot go for individual permissions to the files in a uniform, because uniform itself it is saying that it is applicable to all the files. That means bucket level permissions. Okay, but if you go to fine grained, so for example, you will be able to see here somewhere where it is not showing. Oh, okay, sorry, inside. Okay, if you go to the fine grained, any of the fine grained, I am going to this one, fine grained. Okay, so fine grained nothing but a object level permissions, right? Okay, go to your permissions. Sorry, not here. Oh, I do not have anything to upload. So let me upload it. See, I have here. I'll go to the object. I click down the object, click on edit access. So I'll be able to edit the access of an individual file, because what is this one? This is a bucket with fine grained access control. So when it is a fine grained, you can able to go for individual access of the files. When it is a uniform, you can also you can only mention bucket level permissions. That means how it is, you go here and you click on permissions. You see here grant access. This is a bucket level. So when I provide a bucket level one user, if I add it, it will be applicable to all other buckets. So this is what is a bucket level permission, sir. Okay. Now tell me, anyone have any questions? Okay, this is how we are going to create a bucket in the Google Cloud Storage platform using a cloud storage using bucket and object. Okay, we have created a bucket by using 5 options: name, location type, storage class, access control, retention policies. Okay, and once the bucket is created, there are 2 things: bucket options will be there, object options will also be there. Bucket metadata will be there, object metadata will also be there. So bucket level permissions, that means overall all the files permissions. At a time, all file permissions will be created using the bucket level permissions. That is nothing but a uniform. And one more is object level permissions. With the help of the fine grained, each individual file I can go and provide access to one person or one people, one project, everything. Okay. So this is what is nothing but a creation of a bucket using the console, sir. If you guys have any questions, you can ask me. It's a question and answer session, guys, now. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask me now. Yeah. Okay, someone is saying that it's my second session. Okay, you need not to worry. Even though some people are coming from first session or second session, that is fine, guys. We are just talking about a very basics of the cloud storage, and many things, many important real-time scenarios are yet to come. Okay, so we will take it very slow, and once the time comes, we will try to learn the real time scenario questions. Okay, we will try to solve it. Yeah, now tell me, sir, any questions?
Sir, one question.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a data warehouse, for example, so as you told, only this bucket details, I have a CSV file or something. So based on user permissions, user can access the data, right?
Based on the permission only. If you have an access to the particular bucket, then only you can able to do it. Otherwise, no. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Correct. So without the permissions, no one can able to do anything. So if someone needs to have a permission, some admin has to provide it. Or if you are the admin, you have to you will be having automatically the permissions. Usually, when you are working in a company, there will be an admin. Okay, they will provide the access. So if they have to provide the access, you have to tell them that, so I'm working on this area, so I need this file, so I need to have access to this one, so I need a viewer access or I need a reader access. All of those things, if you mention clearly, then only they will be able to provide you the access. So if you do go and tell him that I'll say I need an access, so they don't understand what you are talking about. So you have to clearly explain, because we as a senior engineers, okay, we as a senior engineers have a good understanding on what we are doing. Okay, yeah.
I mean, is it something that as a data engineer we are going to decide what permissions I need to give, or is it something that infra people?
Right? So you as a, if you are a junior engineer, we need not worry about it. Junior data engineer. Okay, but if you are a senior data engineer, you must know what are the ins and outs of your project. Otherwise, you will not be able to deal your work. You will not be able to deal the client work, right? So if you wanted to do something, you should know what is this access about. Okay, I am facing an because when you run something in your Google BigQuery as a data warehouse, if you do not have access, it will throw an error. If you don't understand that error, whom you will tell? Okay, if it is an admin access issue or if it is some other access issue, it is a project issue. So you do not know that. If you are coming up with this, all the things clearly understood, then only you will be able to logically say that, yeah, this is an access issue from the project, or this is an access issue from the source, this is an access issue from the destination, whatever it is, and you will be able to say that, okay, I need this access, and you will go and connect with the proper team, and you will raise a request to them saying that this is a request, this is a permission that I need. I cannot be able to run my queries. Okay, so you can also put a screenshot of that, so they'll be able to understand and they will provide you the access which you have mentioned there. Okay, so this is what happens in the real-time companies, guys. This is what happens. So because when you joined in a company, you are going to need 100 permissions. Okay, but at the first day itself, it is not possible to get you 100 permissions. 10 permissions you may getting, but tomorrow when you are really working in something, you need one more permission. You have to connect with the DMS team or the migration team or infra team or DevOps team. Okay, there are plenty of the people. You may have to connect with each individual and get that done. Yeah. Any questions, guys?
In big data, you will talk about slowly changing dimensions, CDCs, and
of course.
Okay,
Yes.
for big query.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Okay. Incremental data load, these all things.
Yes. Incremental data, batch data processing, and nested fields, repeated fields, partitioning, clustering. Plenty of the things are there. I'm telling. Even you some topics itself you do not know. All of those topics we are going to learn. Don't worry about that.
And if you have some bad jobs, I mean, there will be some process, right? Like the joins and all these things. Where you will be implementing? Is it in BigQuery or where you will be implementing?
Batch data processing.
Yeah, say for example, I have some example. I have employee table and department table. I need to build a logic for these two tables to generate some report. So these things where will be writing.
Yes. So this is a good question. So the logic is going to run where? And the logic is going to run in that is a SQL query. It is going to run in your BigQuery.
Okay.
But you as a person or someone as a person has to run that query every day at some point of time so that the data will be updated. But that can be done via anything. Either you can use Dataflow or you can use Cloud Composer. Usually people use Airflow environment for this kind of activities. So people say it is a refreshing the data, right? Data refresh. Okay, we are going to do that with help of the data Airflow environment.
Say if it's not a real-time data, okay, the data something the query is same, and if the sources may vary, right? So in this scenario also we'll be writing code in Airflow, is it, or are you
No,
using query? Sorry, I missed something over here.
no. Problem is something that, see, there are two things you have to understand. So basically the thing here is like you have two tables. You wanted to join those tables and you want that query has to be run every day because that employee table is there, department table is there. Employee people maybe the data may be changing, department data may be changing. Okay, so I have to run that query every day to get the updated data. Okay, that joining condition, whatever you write, right? Select star from employee table joining department table on the conditions. So someone has to do that every day. But where they have to do it in the BigQuery only, they have to do it because that is where it is having a SQL editor. It having a query engine. But the thing is like I cannot do it manually every day because it is a manual problem. It is a hectic for me. I cannot run it every day. So that's where I come up with a pipeline. What it will do is like I will create a pipeline where it is going to running this particular query at some point of time. So that is what I'm calling as a batch data processing, because you have a batch of data that you wanted to process it every day. Okay, there is an employee table, there is a department table, some batch data was already there. You wanted to just process it with the help of the SQL. The query has to run in the BigQuery only because that is where it is the SQL query engine. So you create some DAG. DAG is nothing but a directed acyclic pipeline, directed acyclic graph, nothing but a pipeline only. So that pipeline will be running in the Airflow. When the pipeline is running in the Airflow, you will creating a task of BigQuery. BigQuery task you are creating it. So you will mention in that the BigQuery task, you will mention your operator, BigQuery operator. And inside that you will provide a query. That query has to run in your BigQuery. Okay, whatever the output of the query has to store in that particular table. Everything you will mention in that query. Okay, inside the query. So what will happen is like that will be actually taking care of everything. Okay, because you don't want it to do the manual. I can able to show you. So don't worry. That kind of a things are we are seeing. Okay, manually we are not going to do anything. Everything that is more of a automating the things or taking care of a batch data, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, one more question is like, is the Oracle SQL and MS SQL are syntactically somewhat different, right? Is it some BigQuery is also having the same, have a different syntax, or can we use any?
Even see wherever you go, if any platform, there is some difference will be there, but the underlying SQL is same.
Okay, so BigQuery syntaxes is, I mean, BigQuery is having its own syntaxes, right?
Correct. Standard
Maybe
SQL.
some query engine and all, it will be performing the same operations. Maybe that writing syntaxes are different, you mean to say?
Only a bit commands are different, guys. Don't worry about that. See, even though if you go to any MS SQL, Oracle, Postgres, the syntax will be different, but the underlying concept is same. So you do the subtract here, but BigQuery having a subtract command, the command will be a little different how you use it. But the command is same in the SQL Server, also the same command. The command is same. How you use it is different. Okay, syntactically how you use it is different. That's it. Okay, and I'm telling you, out of all SQL Server, MS SQL, all of those things, BigQuery is having a very simple UI, user interface, and very simple. The language is also very simple. Okay, and you have a robust documentation is available for the BigQuery. So Google is providing a good documentation. Even though if I don't know something, I can able to write a query. I can able to go and look at the documentation. It will give you with the examples as well. Okay, so that is one thing. Yeah, a bit different will be there, of course. Okay, any other questions? Anyone? Hi guys. Are we good? Tomorrow shall we meet at the same time? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's meet at the same time tomorrow, guys. Hope you guys have learned something today. So keep learning. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Thank you.